Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about role-based access control management system, like how security features that allows you to control who can access, edit and manage different parts of your applications. If you are struggling with managing user roles and permission in Angular and the Spring Boot application, so this is the correct forum or correct tutorial to cover or understand the basic thing. In this tutorial, what I'm going to cover with step by step. So first of all, we are going to implement authentication with JWT. JWT means that is JSON Web Toolkit. This is the actually provide us the token. That token we are going to validate with the different types of configurations like expirations, some other algorithm with proper security. Next, we're going to talk about like managing the roles and permissions dynamically. Like whenever we are going to create any user, then particular user actually having different types of role and each role having different types of permissions. Let's talk about admin user. So admin user having the admin role, okay, but admin role actually having different types of like permissions, like admin can add or edit the user, they can like view different types of menus and all the features for the applications. Whereas if any user having only the view the report, then that user only have the access to view the report. Other than viewing the report, he is or means that particular user not able to access any other functionalities. So that is the things that managing that roles and permissions dynamically over here. So with that, we are going to restricting UI access based on the user roles. Securing the Spring Boot APIs with Spring Security. Building a fully functional Angular frontend with protected routes, plus a beautiful and responsive UI. As the end of this video, you will have a complete RBAC systems. RBAC means role-based access control system. Okay, so that is scalable, secure, and production ready. Okay, so now actually here I'm going to start about it. So let's start. So first of all, we need to understand that role-based access control systems. What is RBAC? This is a sort of this role-based access control. So if we talked about this, that what is RBAC? So RBAC means, as I said, that user have the roles like admin, manager, and the user. So these are the basically actually roles over here, right? So these are the roles, this admin, manager, or the user. Each role having different types of permissions, like admin may have the create role, they can update the user details, delete, and also the view the report. But the user can have the only the access to view the reports, right? Not for the create, update, or delete the user. User get access based on their assigned role and the permission, means whatever the assigned roles and the permission that particular user have, based on that user can access those feature from the browser. Okay, next we will talk about that why we are going to use RBAC into our system. So the first point is security. This is the very important, right? Whenever we are going to develop any applications, the securities is the main crucial part, right? So it will basically restrict access to authorized action. Like if we are having some kind of the authorized things, using this maintaining this RBAC, we can maintain the security into our system. Scalability, if we talked about that, easily we can add new roles or permissions into our system with this one. And if we talked about the maintainability, so it's a centralized role management things. Role management, actually we can manage all the roles centralizedly. So that means we just go into logged into the system, and over there we can easily like maintain the things. Okay. Next we will talk about like we will talk that how basically here we are going to create two applications, right? One is the backend applications and another one is the front-end application. So the backend applications, if we want to create, so for that as a backend we are going to use this Spring Boot project. So how we are going to create that project? So first of all we need to go over there like this URL. This is the URL here, start.spring.io. So if we go over there, then over there we can get for create option to create the Spring Boot project. So over there we will choose the options given over there. Those options you need to select and choose, and then in the right side of the site you just need to select these dependencies: Spring Web, Spring Security for the securities. This is the data JPA for as we are involving the database things over there, so that's why we need the Spring Data JPA. Then Lombok to avoid the getter and setter, manually write those things just to avoid the boilerplate things, and the database. So in my case I am using the MySQL as a database. You guys can use any kind of database like H2, PostgreSQL, Oracle, so anything you guys can use, but here I am using this MySQL database here. So this is the first step that we need to we'll do. As a second step over here, then we need to configure the database. So for setting up the database we need to we can set these properties into application.properties file. This is the file where we need to set this property like data source URL, data source username, then password, and this DDL auto. So using this we can set this database. Next we are going to create the different types of JPA entities. For creating this RBAC system into your own application, actually we need these are the entities like user entities for saving the user details, role entities, it is a master table for saving the role related things, permissions, it's a master table for storing the permission related details, user role, whatever the user is having, all means always user associated with some roles, so those details we can map into this user role table. And also similar things, the role always mapped with some permission, so that's why in the role permission table we are storing role with the permission. In next we can create the repositories like user repositories, role repositories, and the permission repository. These three repositories we need to create into a system for getting the data from the database. Now actually we are going to implement the role permission relationship, whatever entities we have created till now, over there we just need to mapping those relations between tables, many to many mapping in user role and the permission entities. Okay, whenever I'm going to start the coding, or then I will show you that how we are going to defining this kind of mapping over there. Okay, next basically if you see that now actually you are going to authentications we need to implement, right? So for implementing, as I said that we are going to implement this JWT implementation. So here first of all we need to implement this user detail service, which will basically load the user details from the database. Okay, step 2, we need to configure the Spring security. Here in the security config.java file we are going to defining the configurations of security related things, where actually we are going to allow this API auth login without authentication, because it will be before authentication it should be allowed, right? And then protect the other routes, like whatever the other routes like dashboard, then user management, then reports, so those will be authenticated. Then step 3, we need to implement the JWT authentications. Here basically it will generate the JWT token on successful login, right? Means once the login is successful, then we are going to generate this JWT token and we are returning on the response of login. After that, once the login or any other API come with this validate JWT token, for each request we need to validate this JWT token that it's a valid token or it's expired or it's invalid. This kind of validations we need to do whenever any request will come into our system. We are going to use this JWT util to handle token related operations. And the step 4 is we are going to create the login API, which will basically accept this username and password and return the JWT token in response, successful response of this login. Okay. Next, we are going to develop the front end, right? So this, whatever I talked about that about the backend part, now actually we will talk about the how we are going to create the Angular front end. So for front end, basically we can create Angular project using the ng-new then project name, right? So the project structure actually will be like this is the kind of structure. Here basically if you see this component, let me show you this component. If you notice this one, this component basically, so here if you see to erase it, so this component basically, first of all we are having the login component where we are going to add this login component and HTML. With that also the CSS we can add, then dashboard, then user management, then role management, permission management, report. So these are the component we are going to create for defining the role based access control system. Here we are going to create one guard actually this auth.guard.ts, which will responsible to basically guard the system that without authenticate we are not allowing to enter into the system. Similar kind of we are having the another directives which actually having the permissions related things, like if particular URL doesn't have the correct permission, then we are not allowing to enter into a system. We can redirect to the dashboard default. For service, actually here we can like internally it is talking with the backend APIs. Okay, so for that this kind of communications actually or logic for calling those APIs using the HTTP kept over in the service layer. So that's why this auth service is related to the login related things. The user related operations we are having this user service, and the role related things we are having the role service. Okay, so these are the these three actually for service layer. This is the guard, this is the directive, and these are the components. Okay, so these are the actually components, and this is the routing module where all the path actually defining over here, and here we are defining the module details. Whatever the modules actually added into a system, all the modules added over here in this app.module.ts. So this source actually have, this is actually the one type of the folder structures that we are going to use for this role based access control. I hope you know that how you are going to create this component, service, directive, and the guard in the Angular. In my last few tutorials I've already talked about that what are the commands for creating those kind of like component and the like service. So I'll add, if you are not aware of it, I will add those things in the comment section or in the description section for creating those service layer component and the guard and the routing. Okay, I hope till now it's clear, because there are certain other things are like for creating the auth service. First of all, you need to create this one. For implementing the login page, basically login component, we need to create the login form. Then we actually validate that input. Then after successfully logged in, we are storing the JWT token into local storage of that particular Angular. Next here, we are going to implementing role and permission management in Angular. So what is the step one? Here basically we are going to, as I said, that we are going to create user service, role service and the permission service. Step 2 over here, we are going to create user management page. Here basically we are defining two type of things. Let me show you. One is this user list page. Here basically we are displaying the user and the roles, and in the user form page, here basically we are assigning user some roles. This is the two things. Okay, now for the role management, here we are showing all the roles and assigning the permissions, and for the permissions management page, it will show all the permissions, and also here there we can add those page. And for the route guards and the page access control, like we are going to create this auth guard, like redirecting to like suppose if particular page that we are not supposed to give the enter without any access or role or permissions, then it will be redirected to the unauthenticated user to the login page, right? So that is the better, right? Because we are not allowing that particular user to access that particular link or particular functionalities. So either we can give them to the some message that you are not having the access, or you can say the access denied. You can move to the dashboard page. Okay, so second is the like permission guard. It's actually restrict access to pages based on the permissions, right? So this is the kind of that guard actually it's help us to do or improve the security into our systems. Okay, so finally, like the overall the things kind of theoretically I have clear like what is I'm going to doing over here, like for implementing these role based access control systems, what basically we need to do, what kind of project we need to create, how we are going to segregate those things like backend code and the front-end code. Now basically all the whatever I discussed previously, so I'm going to cover in a live coding. Okay, so without further delay, let's like do code in Eclipse or maybe whatever favorite editor you, so over there we can do the coding. Okay, so let's start to do code. Now we will talk about the backend coding for front-end as well as the backend code that is developed using the Spring Boot. So now actually I will talk about the front-end application that is developed using the Angular. Okay, so now for while I was developing, so obviously I have covered that already talked that there are few menus over there that I'm going to develop. Like if you see in the app.component HTML, here basically I added all the menu related informations. So like here if you see that dashboard, like this will be the after successfully logged in user will be landed into this dashboard page. This user basically it's a like if we want to do some kind of user related activities like adding the user, then update the user, delete the user, those kind of user management kind of activities, those will be these menus actually will do those kind of activities. This is about the role management, like CRUD operations kind of things, like adding the roles, delete the roles, update the roles, similar kind of things for the permissions also. And this just like kind of dummy page, once we'll click on this page, then it will be display one like kind of just kind of few text over there, that so that we can understand that we are having that like that particular user who logged in into the system, that particular user is having a proper access to access this particular tab or not. And this logout button, once we'll click, then it will log out to the system. So this is about the menu one. Like here, if you see this, only we are adding this logout one. Other than this, all are connecting through this in the router link. Okay, so we'll go one by one for each steps actually here. So first of all, like here, if you see that in this app.module.ts here, whatever the component we have defining over here, all the component we need to list it under this app.module.ts file. Here if you see in the bootstrap having this app component file. Now this I've already explained. Now the important and the backbone part of this one, the routing. Like after the logged in or before the logged in, while user clicked on some menus, then where basically it will go in which component, that actually link or routing will be defining in this app routing module.ts file. So if you notice, like here initially it will go to the login component. If it is a dashboard, then it will landed into the dashboard component. I will come the later part actually about this auth guard, this permission guard, and then this. Okay, but before that, just try to understand, if they clicked on the report, then it's a report component. If it is a user, then user list, user form, this component. For the roles, it's a role list component, and similar kind of component will be added over here. Or means once we'll click on this kind of routing, then it will go respective component over there. I have already created, these are the components under the components folder. I hope you already aware of it, that how you can create the component in a Angular. Like this is just a command like ng generate component and then component name. If you want to create under some folder, then component slash then component name you can also give, so that it will create under this component folder. So here I am keeping all the component under this components folder. Here if you see dashboard, login, not accessible, permission management, report, role management, and the user management. These are the all are components. Okay. Here also I have created one directives and two guards, and other than this we are having some services. So these are the complete structure of this Angular project. Now if we talked about this auth guard, before going to the detail of any component kind of things, let's try to understand this, what basically auth guard actually doing. So this is a one kind of actually guard about the system. It will improve the securities of the system. Means here basically if you see in the line number 12, okay, if it is authenticated, means if the user actually logged in successfully into the system, then it will return the true, else not. So here actually if you see that here actually if it is authenticated, then it will say that means you are authenticated. Else what it will do, it will basically routing navigating to the not accessible path. Means we are going to redirect to some pages, like kind of here over there I will show you that how it will look like. Means over there we are showing some information like you don't have the access to this page without authentications or maybe without any permission. So that actually we have defining under this page. Okay, so this is the feature about this auth guard. Means it's actually securing, means without login some user can't access into our system. Even though we can improve this page more over here, means we can add some more securities, but just demonstrating purpose I have added few things so that we can easily understand the complete logic behind the scene what is happening over here. Now if we go in this permission guard, so this is also kind of similar about this authentication, but here once actually user logged in, then user having some kind of the permissions, like maybe admin having to add the user, then maybe they can also like update the users, they can view the reports. So all the kind of things admin can have. Okay, so it's based on the permissions. just vice versa. Auth guard is about to authenticate, but it is having the permissions. So how it is taking from this, what actually required permissions basically need, how we are going to take this value from the root, right? Now if you go over here, like here, so if you see for the component dashboard, like here we are defining it will be the auth guard, means without authentications we are not allowing to land it into the dashboard page. Means if the user is like authenticated, then only we are allowing to them to land it into the dashboard page, right? But here, other than this dashboard, all these things are guard with this permission guard. And here if you see, we are just passing these permissions, right? This is a generate report for viewing the report. Other than this, all are having this add user. Okay, so these are the permissions. If they have, then only they are able to access this page. So here actually they are getting those things, those data. So now if we get over here, so this permission actually coming from there, so that means this is the required permission to land it or access to the particular tab. Now whoever user is logged in into a system, we are just checking that logged in user is include this kind of permissions or not. If they have, then we are returning true, means it's a valid user, else we are routing to the particular user into the unauthorized access page or not accessible page. Okay, so in this way, like these are the guard in the system, so that we can improve the security into our system, and it will like without authenticate we are not allowing to them enter the system, or not like allowing them to access those tab. I hope now you guys can get some little bit of idea that how this permission and this authentication guard is working. Now if we go over here, so here if you see, these are the links where we have add this guard over here. Like for the dashboard we have add this auth guard, and other than this we have add this permission guard. And here we are adding this permission, like for which permission these are accessible. Like for the report, it's a generate report should be the role. Okay, so to understand that how this we are, once the user logged in into the system, then how we are getting this link permissions into our system, right? Because that's, you also need to understand that how it is working. So for that, let's understand little bit of the backend database. So for the backend applications, we having these are the tables: permissions, role permissions, user role, and the users. So if you see these permissions actually, so here these are the list of permissions. We can also add more permissions, but here just to demonstrating this one, I have added these 9 roles over here, like adding the users, edit user, delete view users, add role, edit role, delete roles, and the view roles, and the generate report. So these are the roles we are having. Sorry, these are the permissions I have. Now if we talked about the roles, so these are the roles basically, like admin, user manager, and the report viewer. Now basically we need to map that which role actually having what are the permissions. Let's say this admin user 1, so here this is the mapping of this one. So here if you see, this is the role for the admin 1. So one user is actually having all the roles, permissions actually. This admin user having all the permissions. This is the user management actually having these 2 roles, these 3 roles, 1, 2, and 4. So if you see this 1, 2, and 4, 1 means this, 2 and 4. Okay, and other than this was having the report viewer having this only view the report. Now once we are create the user from the Spring Boot backend application, so I will also explain the backend applications. Over there we can create the user from the backend API. So once we create the user, so it's actually associated one role we need to map. Those permissions we need to choose from the front end while create the user. So this user, like admin is the having ID is 3. So here if you see that user is 3 having the admin role. Okay, similar for the other user. So once user logged in into the system, then we can get the corresponding permissions into the system, and those we are storing over here. Now I will talk about those things. Okay, so let's talk about this auth service. Auth service actually is doing the login. Okay, for doing the login actually here if you see this, we are passing this username and password. Those actually we are received from the portal, like from the portal we need to enter the username and the password. So now it will actually doing the one post call. This is the basically URL into a local. You can use any URL into your local system. Now after calling the post method, we are getting the response as a JSON. Now that JSON response actually it's written the token one. Okay, token means it's a JWT token, and that particular token from the response we need to take it as response.token, and then we are storing that token into the local storage, and also we can decode this one as a user. Okay, and that particular response, now here we are storing the complete response over here. Okay, so as if you see over here, we are storing the token in the local storage, and we are as a user we are setting this over here, and in this current user subject we are storing the complete response. Okay, so this is about the login response. Now if we see, go to the login module in the TypeScript, once user clicked on the login, then actually it's calling this login API with this username and password. If it is successfully, then it will redirect to the dashboard. Okay, so this is about this auth service. Okay, here also you have to use this logout features and get token, and this authenticate method actually called from this auth one, right? Auth guard, and here it's a token we are just checking over here. About the role service, it's a simple, because just we are calling this URL over here, and it's fetch all the roles and it's create the roles. Similar for the user service, it's also similar kind of things, like for getting the users and create the users. Okay, now these are the okay. So next basically we will talk about little bit about this component. Like this is about the dashboard component. So this is a simple, like once user logged in, then we can see this message like welcome to dashboard. For login actually we are just giving over here this this is the like kind of page. Here actually we are giving the options to email and the password. Okay, so then once it's clicked, then it will do this login call and check the login, and then actually it's based on the successful login, it will redirect to the dashboard page. This not accessible, actually this is like some kind of, if user doesn't have any access to the particular page, then we are showing this page like access denied, you do not have the permission to view this page, and here we are giving this link to return to the dashboard. Okay, this is for the permission management, like here we are showing this list of permissions, and this is about this one. Okay, this is for the report. Again, it's a kind of dummy page, that this page is accessible only if you have the report permissions. Okay, this is for the role management. From here we can add these roles, and this is for listing the roles. Okay, list of roles, and this is for the user management, like we can add the users. Okay, and also for viewing this page actually we are having. Okay, so this is about this Angular one. Okay, now here the few like here if you see this package.jsons, here Angular version that 18, over here you can get all the dependencies over here, and this is about the angular.json. so here if you see that these are the like this is something look like. Okay, so this is about this Angular project. Now I will talk about, so here we can start this application actually. Okay, it will not take much time. Meantime, I can explain the backend part of it. Okay, because here if you see for all the components over here, like here it's actually basically calling the backend API. So how the backend is giving us the token and validating the user details and all the information, right? So let's going over here. So this is the Spring Boot application that I have created from the Spring Initializer side. So here basically I have created all the things. First of all, you need to just understand that what are the like dependencies I have used for this project. Like here if you see that Spring Boot Starter Data JPA, as I am going to use the database, so for doing the database kind of activities that I am using this Spring Boot Starter Data JPA. As I am going to create some kind of the REST controller, so for that this Spring Boot Starter Web is the main dependencies jar that is giving us those related dependencies and the functionalities. As we are going to implementing the securities into a system, so for that this is the main jar that or main dependencies that we need to use. For over here actually we are going to use this jot token, so that's why this is Spring Boot securities we have added over here. And JWT related, these are the dependencies that we need to add. As a database I have to use the MySQL, so that's why this driver is needed. So this is about these dependencies. Now as for these database properties, so these are the properties in application properties over here. So application.datasource.url we need to add, then username, password, and these are the driver class name and the Hibernate dialect. So these are the properties we have to add. Now to do these applications, first of all, as I said initially, like these are the table names. So how these tables got created, so this related to that we have to create the entities over here like permissions, then role and user. So permission, if you see, it's having this ID and the name. Role is also similar kind of things like ID and name, and the user is actually having this ID, username, password and the user roles. Okay, so these are the three entities that we need to use for this application. Similar kind of this three repository, here we have created one custom mapping like find by name, similar for the role find by name, and the user repository find by username. And here if you see, all the repositories extend this JPA repository because we need to use this one to getting all the default methods all available under this JPA repository. Okay, now so these repositories, I hope it's clear to you that we need to create these entities, then repositories, and now we need to talk about the securities. So this is the security. Like before going to that, so this is one service actually, that JWT auth filter. Okay, so this is the one filter we need to use when any request will come. We need to extract, because after the login basically for each API we need to pass the token, and we need to extract the token from the header, and we need to validate like this particular token is valid or not. Like, is this token is a valid, it's not expired, it's still active, username is valid, or it's matching the authority. So those kind of validations we are doing under this JWT auth filter. So if you are not aware about the JWT, so in my channel you will get, already I have few applications, few tutorial related to the JWT to understand in detail. Okay, so I suggest you to go through those tutorials before, like, because here I am not going to the detail about this JWT, I'm just going just overview of this one. Okay, next, this JWT util, actually it's having this utility kind of features like for generating the token, validate the token, if you want to extract the username from the token, and extract the expiration. So those kind of things actually it's having over here. Next, this security configurations. So here if you see this, we have used this JWT filter and we are adding this filter before authenticating. Okay, so these are the kind of security configurations that we have added into our Spring Boot application to make it more secure and applying the Spring securities. Okay, now we will go one by one for the controller. So here if you see, we have added three controller. One is the auth controller, another one is the role controller, and the third one is the user controller. So what about the auth controller? So this auth controller actually is having the only one post mapping, that is the login. Okay, so here if you see, we are passing this login request as username and the password. Okay, so then after here we are just calling this auth service, this login method with this username and password. So using this Spring Security Authentication Manager, we are validating that whatever the username we are passing, it is a valid user or not. After that, we are loading that username by this load by username. Then we are generating the tokens with those roles we are adding over here, and in a response we are just passing this token with the permissions for the particular user. Okay, so in this way we are passing. Next we talked about these roles. So it will actually basically fetch all the roles for that particular, means all the roles not related to any user, but it will return us all the roles. This user controller, actually here if you see that if we want to create any user, then this request is there, ID, username, password and the permissions. Okay, now it will basically going this service, and using this password encoder it's setting the username and password, encrypted password actually set over here. If you see that in this user, like these are the encrypted password, right? Okay, and also like whatever the role actually selected while create the user, whatever the input provided by the user, then actually those roles is set over here. Okay, so these are the few controllers I have added over here just to demonstrate the things. So let us now start this application, then we will see that how it is look like. Initially the database is empty, basically just to add the dummy data into the system. One application using the command line runner I have created here. So here basically if you see that it's a seed permission and the seed roles, like in the permissions tables we are adding these permissions initially, and for the roles also, and just mapping this one, right? We are just adding this role with this permission. So the default data we need to insert into the database for the permission and the roles. So that's why this command line runner is added over here. Once we will start the application, initially it will add those data into the database. Okay, it will help us to prepare the dummy data into the system, like these are the permission and these are the roles, and for which roles what are the permissions are mapped, basically like for the admin these are the permissions which are mapped. Okay, these are the complete things. For user manager these are the like permissions, and for the report viewer this is the like permission to view the report. So this is the initial data setup. Okay, now if you see that application got started over here, right? Okay, now from the browser we can see that how we can access those things. So now as I have started the applications from the VS Code as well as backend applications also started. Like if you see over here, the backend front-end applications started in this localhost 4200. So in browser basically I have hit this 4200. Okay, so now the initially it will be landed into the login page. Now here basically what we will do, we will try to use this kind of user like admin user and this report to access different kind of functionalities. So let's logged in with this admin. Okay, so now like after the logged in we'll see that dashboard is coming, correct? We'll come to the dashboard. Now in the over here if you see, these are the SQL actually basically execute once the login is happening. So here once we'll click on this user management, we will see these are the user into our system. Similar for these roles, these are the roles. So actually for these permissions we are having this kind of permissions, and for this report is the page, this is the page. So as we have logged in using the like admin, so that's why we are able to access all the menus from over here. Now try to log in using the report user. Okay, so report user only having the access this dashboard, because dashboard is access for all the users and the report is only access for this report user, but this report user not able to access this user management page, right? So that's why if you see this URL over here, it's actually redirect to the not accessible page. Similar for the role management also and the permission management. But if we click on the report, then it will actually view the report page. So this, in this way, basically it's actually working. Okay, that how actually. So in this way, basically for all the user, it's actually checking the permissions, and then it will check that particular URL actually having the access based on the permissions. So accordingly, based on that, it will actually decide. Now if we logged out and try to logged in with the user, okay, so this particular user actually having this user management, role management, permission, because for the user actually, if you see the routing module, so this for user actually is having the add hyphen user, means it's a similar to the like admin kind of things. Okay, so that's why it's actually matching this one, and it's able to access all the things. But for the report, if you see, the user is not able to access the report page, because the report page only accessed by the user, only the report user and the admin. Okay, so this is actually about all this one, like how this role based access control system actually how it is working. Okay, if you guys like, I hope you guys able to understand that how it is working. I will add this code into the GitHub sections for the front end as well as the backend code. Okay, still if you guys have anything, please do let me know in the comment section. So in this overall project, what we built, we will build a secure RBAC system using Angular and the Springboard. As a backend, we have used that JWT authentications and structure role permission model, right? While from the front end, we have used this Angular component and the root guards to ensure user access only their allowed features. So this approach actually enhance the security and the scalability for future growth, right? I hope till now it's clear. Still, if you guys have anything, please do let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Please press the bell icon for further notification. Thanks for your time. See you in my next videos. Bye bye.